Hi everyone, and welcome to the Small Business Heroes Show, the show that's everything about small business. Today I'm talking with Bernadette Janson from the School of Renovation. Now, Bernadette did her first renovation at 13 years old, living on a farm in central Victoria where her surroundings did not meet her expectations. She set about making over her bedroom as you do. It was an empowering experience and really hammered home the power of renovating, how you can transform your surroundings and how you feel about your life with a bit of inspiration, some elbow grease and a splash of paint. After a decade later, renovating kept her while staying at home caring for her 4 children. That's right, 4. She's one of those crazy women who need to have a project on the boil. And she grew by getting more daring and ticking off more renovation bucket lists items such as renovating an investment property, heritage listings and overlays, development work, subdivisions, and she was just getting started. Fast forward a few more years and the chicks have all flown the nest, and her renovation focus is on a fulfilling and satisfying life with her love, and she's honoured to be able to do this by presenting the School of Renovation. Janson, welcome to the Small Business Heroes Show.
Thank you so much, Scott. That's an awesome introduction. I'm honoured.
It's an awesome thing that you're doing, taking old and dishevelled buildings that may, or things that have become a bit unloved and making them into something that someone can love again.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
So tell us a little bit about the School of Renovation, about what you do, about the magic that you give.
So basically, as you've mentioned before, I have been, over the last few years, pretty much renovating full time. And I guess I found, I love renovating, but being on a building site with tradies all the time was a bit lonely. And so I started just working with my friends in, getting them to where they wanted to be with their properties. And that sort of sowed the seed for actually putting together the School of Renovating. And so now I've sort of got the best of both worlds. I work on my own renovations, but I also work with other people, helping them have better lives through renovating.
I've got not one little handy bone in my body. Unfortunately, I do try. Is renovating something that you really have to be born with a skill to do?
Actually, absolutely not. And to be honest with you, when Stephen and I, my husband and I, first started renovating many years ago, we used to do it. He had a background in building and still does. And we used to do it his way. And when you approach renovating as a builder, we certainly didn't make the types of profits we're making now, that we're not hands-on at all. So certainly I control the project from woe to go, but I don't do any DIY, and I actually think it's an advantage not to not be able to do it yourself, because it forces you to make sure that you buy the right property and you have enough money in the project to pay for trades to do the work.
Right. So is the block an educational program for renovators at all, Bernadette, or is it's something that's throwing everyone off the scent? So,
the block, like in essence, the block is renovating, but like anything to do with television, it's about the drama and what sells the show, to be honest.
Yep.
And if I ran my projects like the block, then I would be very poor.
Right. Unless you had a film crew following you everywhere.
Yeah. So, doing things room by room, it's just not cost effective to do it that way. You really need to get the economies of scale and break your work down into trades rather than into areas. And you need to be organised. And the more organised you are, the more cost efficient you can be.
Fantastic. For our small business audience members out there listening or watching or reading this, how can they go about renovating if that's really their passion?
Okay, so what I say to everyone who's thinking about, renovating is the first place to look is your own home, because for most people, the family home is the biggest asset that they own, and it really makes sense to take advantage of that and maximise it. So a lot of our students come in and the first thing they do is they renovate their own home. Now, when you're doing renovations, and as an accountant, when you're doing, with an investment property at the end of the year, there are some things that you can depreciate much faster than the others, okay? So that cosmetic things depreciate a lot quicker, the more structural things are a lot slower. But the reality is that when you make a functional change to a house, like you add a bedroom or, you know, add a living area, that actually stays with the property forever. Whereas when you are just doing cosmetic changes, the minute you finish it, it starts to deteriorate and date. And so there will be a time when you actually have to come back and do it again. So when you're thinking about adding value, particularly to the family home, think about the structure of it and things and what you need to do to actually add value that's going to stay with the home forever. Do you get what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so I would recommend really sort of getting the best out of your own home first, and then you can draw on that equity to be able to do other projects.
Do people,
Go on.
Sorry, but I was going to say, do people fall in love with renovating? Or is it something you do once and think, oh my God, never again?
Well, some, like if you haven't managed it well, it will be a nightmare, and you probably will say that. But yeah, they do, and and it doesn't seem to matter really how bad it is when you're in there doing it. The whole idea, there's something really empowering about taking something that's run down and drab and ugly and turning it into something really beautiful. It's an incredible high. The other thing I would say about renovating is the buying, renovating and selling, the flipping is what everyone wants to do, and that is what I've done for a long time. But I would really strongly recommend, unless you need that cash flow, that you don't do that. For lots of reasons, but the main one being that it's just a glorified job. Because there comes a point in time where you won't be able to be out or won't want to be on site all the time. And if your income depends on you doing the work, then you've got a job. So what I would say to your people is to think about renovating investment properties. If you can, buy and renovate and hold. Renovate to get the return up. But then if you can manage to hold them, then you have the capital growth as well, and then you're building a portfolio for long-term. I don't think income's ever completely passive, but more passive income. Yeah.
That's great advice, Bernadette. Building wealth in the long term should be what it's all about.
Yeah.
So you can actually make money out of renovating.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're all about. So, I'll tell you about. Do you want to hear about a couple of my projects at the moment?
Please.
Okay. So up until recently, I have done a lot of flipping, and now I only flip if I've got a reason to, because I have sold way too much. And so, at the moment, I'm doing projects with our kids. So, we all want to, give our kids a good start in life, and particularly if you're living in Melbourne and Sydney, them getting started with their first home can be quite challenging. So what we've done is, our children have good serviceability, they've got good jobs, so they've gone off and got loans, and we've partnered up with them, and so I should step back a step and just talk about how I fund my renos. So how I fund them is I set up a line of credit on another property. It can be the family home, can be any property, a property that's got equity in it, and I use that for everything that's not covered by an investment loan. So I'll get an investment loan to buy the property, and then I'll use that for the deposit, the holding costs, the reno, and everything I need to pay until it's ready to sell or revalue. And so I call it the bucket. And so when I do projects with my kids, I've said, go and get pre-approved for as much as you can, and they've gone off and done that. And so we go and buy a property using their serviceability and my equity, put it together, do the reno, sell it, and we split the profit. So I'm just finishing one with my daughter at the moment, and that's actually turned out to be a bit of a windfall. We took a bit of time getting it through strata to renovate, and in that period, it was 7 months. In that period, it's gone up quite a lot. So initially, I was forecasting 100,000 profit. I'm now looking at closer to 2.
Wow.
So, but in all things being equal, we would have made 100,000 profit. That's 50 grand each. It's a 4-week reno, and Bob's your uncle.
That's beautiful. Bernadette, we're running out of time, but I just wanted to quickly ask you about Airbnb, because it's a strategy that I've heard you talk about and it just fascinates me. Can you just briefly tell us about that?
So Airbnb's really revolutionised my experience of renovating, a lot of my renovators, because it means that it takes the element of risk out of renovating apartments. Everyone knows you've got to get approval, and it can take time. So we set it up for Airbnb, and the returns are phenomenal. They're not quite as good as they used to be. Obviously, they're diminishing a bit, but they are phenomenal. For example, I recently, not that long ago, renovated a little studio, and I decided to put it on Airbnb for the 4-week settlement period after it was sold. I listed it on a Saturday night just before the auction on a Monday night, and I had it full within 24 hours. And this little apartment, which owed me $400,000 by the time I'd finished renovating, was returning $850 a week.
Wow! Do the math. That's awesome.
I know. I was very sorry I'd sold it, but anyhow, that's life. So, but I've had 3 or 4 projects all on Airbnb at various stages. I've got a development site, I'm waiting for approval, so I've got that on Airbnb. Much better returns than long-term rental. And I've set it up so I don't manage it, I don't clean, I don't manage the bookings. I've got that all outsourced, and so that it's quite easy to manage. I would really strongly recommend anyone thinking about short-term rental that they really look at that. Just one more thing. We are actually, this is a shameless plug, we are actually doing training on Airbnb. The reason we're doing it is because there are lots of people hosting on Airbnb. But out of all the hosts on Airbnb, 1% of the hosts are making 20% of the profit. What that means is for every okay host, a good host is making $250 for every dollar that an okay host is making.
Wow.
So there is a lot to be gained by doing it well. That's that.
Bernadette, how can people that are watching, listening, reading this show get in touch with you, find out about the Airbnb course and anything else that the School of Renovation, how can I get in touch with you?
Okay, so all you need to do is come to our website, which is www.theschoolofrenovating.com.
You just down below.
And you can just go to the contact page and send me an email, tell me what you're interested in, and I will let you know the best way for us to help you with that. Or you can just look around at all the stuff that's on the site and educate yourself.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for talking with our small business heroes today, Bernadette. I'm your host, Scott Trevorth, and I'm from Scott Partners and Go Global Bookkeeping, a bookkeeping service that's brought to you for just little as $20 an hour. Great bookkeeping value for you. So thank you so much for coming on the show today, Bernadette. It's been an absolute pleasure to hear about renovating and learning about how to rejuvenate something that was a little bit tired and is now something useful again. I'm your host, Scott Trevorth, and you've been listening to the Small Business Heroes Show.
Thank you so much, Scott.